Hello, gorgeous women of the internet. I'm going to give you guys a moment to hop on. And of course, you know the drill. If you are here, say hi. And if you are catching the replay, hashtag replay. My first live as a married woman. I won't talk about like my wedding and honeymoon and all those things on this live because I kind of want to get to the point of a question that I was asked and I want to get into the material of today, but I will make a video about all that other good stuff at some point. Okay, so I got a message a couple of days ago from a woman, and she actually really articulated this message wonderfully. And I thought that with what she had asked me, it would be really, really powerful and helpful to those of you who are going through the same stuff, right? So I'm going to read her question, and there's like multiple different points that I want to touch on. So let me get into her message real quick. Okay, so she messaged me and said, "Hey there, I'm feeling super depressed tonight. I was talking to a guy for about 2 to 3 weeks. We haven't met, but we're planning to, and he ended it with me today, and I'm devastated. I really liked him. He ended it because I was too needy. One of my needs equal effort and wanted good morning and good night texts. And he wasn't very good at the good morning texts. Maybe I didn't express that I wanted good morning text. I don't know. Well, I'm feeling very regretful and that I completely sabotaged a good thing. I'm so mad at myself. However, on the other hand, I feel like maybe my feelings are valid if that's a need. I hate how when I like someone, I'm so needy. I'm not good at playing hard to get. I need constant validation, and I feel like I'm never going to fall in love because of this. Any advice you can give me?" So, like I said, she articulated this really beautifully because it gave me like a clear view of what she's going through and what she needs to work on. And so, if you can resonate with this, just put a one in the chat. Let me know if you can resonate with this because I certainly can. And so, I mean, for those of you who are new to me, I've been doing this work for nearly 6 years now, helped hundreds of women. I have been through pretty much every relationship scenario that you can imagine, with whether it was abusive relationships, toxic relationships, situationships, all the things, right? And so I'm going to kind of go through her message and speak on each point as I read it. So she mentions that they were talking about for about 2 to 3 weeks and they haven't met yet, but we're planning to. And he ended it with her and she's devastated. So, the first thing I want to point out here is that that is a common symptom of an abandonment wound, which is early attachment. So her and this guy have not even met yet. However, she is very intertwined with this guy already. She has attached to him, and that's a sign of an abandonment wound. It shows that she put him on a pedestal, this connection on a pedestal, and it was more about what she could get from this guy rather than a real connection, right? And so this is just what I'm picking up on. And when we have abandonment wounds, that's super, super common because you are trying to soothe that wound, that hole in your heart with another person, with a romantic relationship, right? And so that is a telltale sign of an abandonment wound if you are early attaching, if you are devastated by somebody who broke things off with you that, one, you haven't met yet, and two, you've only been talking to for a couple of weeks. You are way too involved with this person. And of course, I have so much compassion and empathy, and I say things as I feel them, right? So I just want to be, obviously super honest with you so that you can heal this and move forward. Nothing ever, gets solved by me sugarcoating things. And so way too much um way too much energy being put into this guy. And when it comes to early attachment, you really don't even know somebody yet. You're trying to decide, is this person a good fit for me? And when we have these abandonment wounds, we go all in all at once. It gets hot and heavy, and then the relationship tends to burn out, typically after a month, a couple of months, in this case, a few weeks. And what I always, always, always tell my clients is that relationships that start off hot tend to burn quickly. And again, I have been in very similar situations myself years and years ago, right? And so we want to, that's the very first thing that we want to pay attention to is this abandonment wound. Because again, if we're having these relationships that are so hot and heavy and we're talking every day and I'm, enthralled with you and my life now revolves around you, you are getting lost in that connection. You've lost yourself. And relationship, you can pretty much guarantee that it's going to be a heartbreak if that's how your relationship starts out, or if that's how a connection starts out. And so when we are dating, it is wildly important to pace yourself. So you're not giving your exclusivity away to somebody after 2 to 3 weeks before even meeting them, right? Which is what it sounds like this was the case. And a lot of women kind of get stuck in that trap of they meet somebody, they go hot and heavy, they go all in, they're, exclusive, they're, just, head over heels immediately. And that is how we continue to get our heart broken over and over and over again because we are not paying attention to who that person is. We're only trying to get a unmet need met in those moments. And so we fall in love with potential. We ignore red flags, all of the things, right? And so I don't know if there was red flags with this person. I couldn't tell by just this one message. However, that is the obvious thing here in the beginning of this message is that there's an abandonment wound and there needs to be pacing in the beginning of a connection, which means you are going slow and steady. You are learning about this person and you're not going, nose diving into a connection and making it your whole life. Because again, if you do that, if you make a connection your whole life in the first couple of weeks of talking, the moment it ends, you're going to feel devastated. And the reaction is not appropriate for the amount of time that this connection was active, if that makes sense. And so why it feels so intense is it's just another abandonment. It's another thing that's activating that rejection wound, the abandonment wound, making you feel like you're not good enough, right? And so that is the very first thing here in this message that needs attention is being able to pace, go slowly, and not make this person your whole life, and obviously addressing that wound. So what I teach all of my clients, which is very important in healing your relationship patterns, is learning where these wounds are coming from, right? And some women that I talk to, they're like, yes, I know it comes from my childhood. It comes from, XYZ, and they know it, but they have not actually done the healing to heal it. Or they have no idea where it comes from, or maybe it's a mix of both, right? And so our abandonment wounds typically come from our experiences in childhood. And if we do not address them, it lives within the subconscious and it will leak into every relationship that we have. And so we have to look at, okay, where is this abandonment wound coming from? What do I need to give myself that I did not get when I was younger that will help begin to heal this wound, right? And so this is why I tie in conscious healing and subconscious healing. We have to marry those together so that you can truly heal from what you experienced in the past. Like if you just ignore it, it's going to keep coming up over and over and over again. It's like the spiral of life. If you don't learn the lesson, it's going to keep presenting itself over and over and over again until you face it, you feel it, and you hit it head on. So I'm going to go into the next part of her message. He ended it because I was too needy. One of my needs is equal effort and wanting good morning and good night texts. And he wasn't very good at the good morning texts. Maybe I didn't express that I wanted good morning texts. I don't know. Well, I'm feeling very, very regretful and that I completely sabotaged a good thing. So when it comes to these like elusive good morning and good night texts, they really do not mean anything. You do not need that in the beginning of a connection. And I know you're like, Morgan, I really, really want that. That's perfect if you want that in a relationship that you are in. Totally. Tell your partner that you like good morning and good night texts, or, tell somebody you're dating that that's what you like. But it is not a man's job to do that for you in the beginning, because just like you are trying to figure out if he's a good fit for you, that's what you should be doing. That's what dating is all about. Not just picking the first person that makes you feel the chemistry of the butterflies. Um, um, the good morning and the good night texts, they really don't mean shit. And I'm being so incredibly honest with you, because there are so many toxic men out there that will send you those good morning and good night texts and pictures throughout the day and all the things, but they never actually take you on dates. They keep you a secret. They don't move things forward, all the things, right? So we're looking less at these good morning and good night texts, but how are they showing up in the connection? And if they are not showing up in the connection, and again, we have to look at what's appropriate and what's not appropriate for the beginning of a connection. And high value men understand that. They will not rush. Women who have rejection and abandonment wounds, we tend to rush and try to like make things happen quickly and try to, get into the relationship quickly, become the girlfriend quickly, have all the communication, constantly all the time, right? High value men don't operate like that, and they will pace the connection. And that's why sometimes it will feel boring if you are dating a high value man or you are dating a good man. And he is pacing things. You're like, this is boring. Does he even like me? Yada, yada, yada. Right. And so the good morning texts don't mean shit right now. In early stages of dating, he has no obligation to do that for you. He's figuring out if he wants to be with you, just like you're figuring out if you want to be with him. And you don't need, in the beginning of a connection, like face to face is the most important thing. If a man is not asking you out on a date face to face quickly, then that's a red flag, and you're not going to stick around to be pen pals, right? I know so many of my previous clients, and of course myself included in the past, had been stuck in this pen pal cycle. And when you're available for that, the man is like, why on earth would I take this girl out on a date or, move anything forward if I'm getting everything I need right here, right now, right? And so face to face is the thing that we need in order to actually know somebody. You cannot, somebody over text could not even be the same person in person. How many times have you had really good banter with somebody, or you knew somebody online, and then when you met them in person, they were not the same, right? And so face to face is the most important thing. And that's what we really need to focus on in early stages of dating is face to face connection. Is he taking me out on dates? Is he consistent in his communication? Does that mean he's going to be texting you all day, every day in the beginning? Absolutely not. Is he going to be sending good morning texts and good night texts in the beginning? No. And that's okay. But if you tell him, when I'm with somebody, when I'm in a relationship or whatever, I really love a good morning text. Does that mean he needs to do it every single morning? No. But how does he show up for me outside of that? I honestly, me and Mike really didn't text all that much. Like, I think between our first date and our second date, actually, we met online, we met on Bumble. Between the time that we met on Bumble and our first date, I think we didn't talk for like a week. We had the conversation. We were both really busy. He was out of town. I think I was out of town. And so we really didn't talk until our first date. And then between our first date and our second date, there was a couple of messages exchanged, right? It's like face to face is the most important. And we need to get off of these good morning and good night text things, because yeah, that's great when you're in a relationship. Again, like if that's what you want, that's what you want, and that's okay to want it. You can have those desires of your heart, but expecting that from a man after a couple of weeks is just not appropriate. And we want that because we have already made him the center of our universe. And so your main focus is not his good morning and good night text, that's fine if you want to talk to your partner about that or talk to, the person you're dating about that when you're heading towards relationship. You're like, yeah, I absolutely love getting good morning texts and good night texts. And then see how they show up for you. Right. And she also talks about she wants equal effort. And so when she said that, it makes me think that there's not equal effort there. And so what I'll say about that is if he's not putting in effort, first of all, a woman does very little effort in the courting stages. She does very little effort in the courting stages. And so if a man is not showing up, like our job is to be receptive, to be open, to be warm, and to fall in love with ourselves in a man's presence. And so if a man is not showing up in those early, like in a couple of weeks, he's not the one. And we need to stop saying he should be doing this or I need more from him in this. No, we pick the person who is already doing the things. If a man is not showing up yearly and consistently, we don't give him our energy. We don't give that person access to our energy and our body and our time. Right. And so we need to have higher standards around this. And when I say higher standards, I actually wrote a post today talking about high expectation or having low expectations and high standards. And so this goes perfectly along with this, where she needed to have low expectations of he should be sending me this, or I needed him to be this way, and have the high standards of if this person's not showing up and he's not asking me out on a date, and he's not being consistent, he's not putting in effort, I'm just going to let him go instead of trying to get him to be the person that I want him to be. I'm going to allow him to be who he is, but decide that that's not right for me and have these high standards of I want somebody who asks me out on dates and who I can see in person. And, that's something that we have to keep in mind too, is like, if you're just pen pals with these people, like, where is that going to go? I always tell my clients, like, unless a man can see you, don't spend days and weeks messaging with him. In person will always be the way that you know if somebody's the right fit for you. And so if a man's not putting in effort, instead of trying to get him to put in effort, you keep your options open and only pick the guy who is putting in effort, right? So from the very beginning, I mean, Mike was consistent. Did we talk every single day in the beginning? No. As men, we're busy in life. I run my own business, he runs his own business, and but he always made time for me. There was never a question in my mind where I stood with him, and that is really, really important. So even though he was, we weren't talking every single day in the beginning, um there was always a date on the calendar, and he always put effort into the dates, and he always showed up on those dates and was so kind and present and putting in effort and getting to know me and all of that, right? And I didn't put all my eggs in one basket in the beginning because, you know when we are on a mission to create the most epic love affair of our life, we're not just going to put all our eggs in one basket until we know that we want to be with somebody. And so that means you're dating around and you're allowed to do that. And a lot of the women that I work with, they have resistance to that in the beginning. But it's one of the smartest things that you can do, because why on earth would you give away your exclusivity to somebody who has not earned it, who you don't even know? And your whole, like, the whole point of dating is to find out who you are, what you want, and what you like, so that you can truly have the best relationship of your life. Mike and I, my now husband, um, we have such an incredible relationship. I mean, during our wedding, our vows were just unfucking real. Our vows were so beautiful to one another. And just our relationship, the speeches that we heard from our friends and our family during our wedding, everyone can see what an incredible relationship we have. We are insanely compatible. When we did our marriage counseling, um, through our pastor, um, we did a marital test or whatever kind of test it was. And it's like you fill out all these questions and it shows you your compatibility. Like our pastor was like impressed with our compatibility because, again, intentionality. I was very intentional, and I know Mike was very intentional too. But we were intentional about what we wanted and what we were creating. And I did keep my options open in the beginning, which I did tell Mike that I was dating until I knew that I wanted to be with somebody, until I, had the most epic love, and I was looking for the most epic love affair of my life. Um, and so cutting yourself off from that is a huge disservice. And I know that you can feel guilty about it and whatever. Be honest. That's what dating is. That's what it's there for. And it's so important that you do that. Um, this truly isn't a new concept either. It's just now everything's digital, right? And so if a man is not putting in the effort this early, I mean, do you want to be with somebody who's not putting in effort early into a connection? And also, what I will say about this as well is if you start efforting, if you start taking on the masculine role, which it does sound like that's what happened here, too. I mean, I don't know the whole situation, but when we have anxiety, anxious attachment, abandonment wounds, we will start leaning forward and we will start efforting and we will start moving the relationship forward. If we do that, we're taking over the man's role and he will start leaning back and he will start being less interested in pursuing you. And that's why we see this shift in dynamics where a man, like I said, he is efforting a lot in the beginning. He is pursuing you. And if a woman starts taking on that masculine role, he's going to get disinterested and he's going to stop putting in the effort, and it's either going to push him away or you're going to have this flip-flop dynamic that makes you feel very resentful and annoyed, and you're like, why isn't he showing up the way that he was before? And so there's our side of the street and there's their side of the street. If we are showing up in our feminine energy, we are allowing a man to court and pursue us, then if a man is not doing that, then he's going to remove himself, right? But if a man is pursuing you and courting you and all the things, you're going to see who this man is. But if you start taking over his job, then you're going to hold on to a connection far past its expiration date. You're going to get way more invested. You're going to get exhausted. You're going to get resentful, and it's never going to go well. You're never going to be happy that way. And so we really have to get so good at self-soothing and not allowing ourselves to be needy. And I want to say this, your needs are not needy, but we have to meet our own needs instead of heavily relying on somebody else to do it for us. So there's independence, or there's, hyper independence, there's codependence, and then there's interdependence. Again, I've been on the hyper independent side, the codependent side. I am now happily in the middle, in the interdependent side, where I can take care of myself, but I also rely on my partner, where I am dependent on my partner for certain things. And I know that I can handle it on my own, right? And so when you start getting needy, when you start needing them to show up for you in a certain way, then that's when you start doing all your weird coping mechanisms where you're the one that's reaching out. You're the one trying to make plans. You're the one trying to push, force, all the things. And it does not feel authentic, and it doesn't feel good for you, and it doesn't feel good for them. And so learning how to self-soothe and meet your own needs before you go and look for somebody else to meet them is really incredibly important. We're looking for interdependence. And it's very common that I see that women go from codependence, they swing all the way to hyper independence, where they're like, I don't need a man. I'm not letting anyone in. I'm not going to let my guard down. Nobody's going to be able to hurt me. Neither of them get you what you want. Love takes trust. It takes risk. It takes discipline. It takes patience. And And we need to really embody all of those things in the dating process. So if you're needing somebody to be somebody for you 2 weeks in, you're in trouble. You know, your main thing is to take care of your needs, soothe yourself, assess, is he showing up? Do I like who this person is? Are they, because again, like if you're not willing to meet your own needs, how on earth can you expect somebody else to meet your needs? When we talk, I always talk about the energetic match, right? And we always get what we're an energetic match for. So when we are needy and we're putting all of the power in somebody else's hands, we are abandoning ourselves, which makes us an energetic match for more abandonment. And so we've got to get clear on, okay, am I meeting my own needs? Am I showing up for myself? Do I have a big, beautiful life outside of dating and relationships so that my whole life doesn't revolve around my partner? Because that is where you will get in so much trouble, where you're like, I gave this person everything. I bent over backwards. I revolved my life around them, and then they left, and then your whole world is crumbled. When you have autonomy, when you have a beautiful life outside of a relationship, you will feel less inclined to make them your whole world. And that's wildly important. I mean, in all relationships, it is so important to have that life outside of the relationship and then the life that you have together. And a man will fall in love with you when you are in love with yourself and in love with your life. If you are desperate, if you are not happy with yourself, if you're not happy with your life, and you go out and start dating, a man's going to sense that and it's not going to be attractive to him, right? And so you've got to make yourself happy. You've got to look for how you can create a really beautiful life. And that's what I did for myself. I really heavily like depended on men for my self-esteem, for my happiness, for all of the things. And every time they left, because they always did, I was left in pieces over and over and over again. And it wasn't till I built a really strong core of resilience within myself and built a life that I was on fire about and fell in love with myself and built my confidence and my self esteem so that when I got rejected or when I experienced a relationship that didn't work out, it didn't absolutely fucking destroy me. And that's going to be a really big key piece for you, for all of you who are experiencing this, going through this. And if you have a beautiful life that you're on fire about and you're like, yeah, like I love my life. I love my career. I love, my friends and I have all this, but you're still experiencing crap in relationships. It's probably because you're self-abandoning. You have this beautiful life here, but then when it comes to the relationship, your coping mechanisms start to come up again and you start self-abandoning in love. Your boundaries go to the wayside and you start overworking and doing all, and your heart's closed off, whatever it is, right? So I wanted to touch on both of those pieces there, because I work with women who have incredible careers and beautiful lives, but then when we look at their relationships, it's like they don't cross over. Okay. So that's where, things can happen like that. Like, and I've also worked with women who do not have a life that they're on fire about, and I help them create that life that they're on fire about. And then that does translate into their love life. So the next piece of this is I'm not good at playing hard to get and I need constant validation. So if you want to play hard to get, you're only going to match up with boys. So this thing about playing hard to get, it's not about playing hard to get. It's about being a high value woman who owns what she wants, she gets what she wants, and she doesn't settle. Right. And so when you're talking about playing hard to get, it's like, no, I am hard to get. And not in the way of like, nobody can get my walls down or I'm so high maintenance or anything like that. It's like, no, like I have standards for my life and my relationships. And if somebody is not showing up in a way that feels good to me, and again, when you heal your abandonment wounds, it's going to feel different. Like if you're wanting a man to show up constantly because you can't handle yourself or you can't handle being alone, that's one thing. But like when you heal that, a relationship is going to feel different because it's going to feel like an incredible bonus to your life instead of like a desperate need. And so playing hard to get is only going to get you little boys. You know what I mean? Like man children. I don't know how to say that in plural, but no, you get to be hard to get. I was not easy to get. I did not sleep with Mike until we were in a committed relationship, and um, I waited for months before I was willing to give him my my exclusivity and a relationship. And he did have to take me out, and I had high standards. And so I wasn't playing hard to get. I had high standards because I really love and value myself. And I was never going to put myself in a position again where I was in a relationship that wasn't good for me and that didn't feel right. Okay. And so there's a huge difference between being hard to get because you have high standards and because you value yourself and playing hard to get. Playing hard to get, the energy always wins. You can try to like, oh, I'm gonna just see that he texted me and I'm not gonna text back for 14 and a half minutes so that he is on the edge of his seat. No, that energy is never going to work. But if you have a lot of amazing things going on in your life, whether it is you're going to a Pilates class, you're with your friends, you're doing something in your career, and you miss his text for half the day, and then you get back to him, like that is you being just showing up in your life and having high standards. You're not there to text him immediately every time he texts you because you're out living your life. You're not attached to his validation, right? And if you know that you need validation, this is where you're going to need to give it to yourself because no amount of validation from anybody externally will truly be enough for you ever. And that's a really hard pill to swallow, but it's true. Just like, 100 people could tell you that you're pretty. And unless you truly think that you're pretty, it's going to go in one ear and out the other. I'm going through that with my daughter right now, who's, 13 going on. Yeah, I think she's 13. And, you know, she has people tell her she's pretty all day long and she struggles to see it in herself. And, I told her, I was like, no matter how many people tell you that you're pretty, it's not going to matter until you start telling yourself how beautiful you are and truly starting to see the beauty within you. And so when it comes to validation, the little girl within you is needing that validation. A lot of this is coming from childhood experiences, childhood trauma, whether it was capital T, baby T. And what I mean by that is there are capital T traumas, which would look like um, uh, uh, abuse, and a baby T would look more like a parent being a little bit emotionally unavailable, right? So, there's a scale in which there's trauma, but there's always trauma, right? And so your job is to give that little girl within you that's crying out for a hug, crying out for attention, crying out for somebody to just be there and pay attention to her and sit with her. You be that for you. And when you are that for you, you will feel so solid within you. A man will sense that and want to be that person for you as well. If validation comes out of obligation, it's going to feel gross for the both of you. Just like, people fishing for compliments, it doesn't feel good for the person giving the compliment. The validation, if you're needing the validation, it's not going to feel good for the person that is giving the validation. You want it to feel good for the both of you. One thing that I kept in mind when I was dating was I want the person that I'm dating to have such an incredible experience with me. Not only did I want to have an incredible experience with them, but I wanted them to have a beautiful experience with me. And that meant that it was my job to be confident, to be resilient, to be emotionally intelligent and secure and all the things so that they could have, so that I could fully be myself and they could feel good with me, right? Because it's not only about us. I think that, you know, there's there's a couple different perspectives of like it's all about me and what I get, which to be honest, like codependency is that is, you know, how can this person meet my needs? And a lot of the times codependents don't realize this because they're like, no, it's all about the other people. It's all about what you can get from the other people. And I know that that can be a hard pill to swallow, but it's a pill that I had to swallow where I was like, you know what, that's true. I was a people pleaser because I wanted validation and I didn't want people to be mad at me. I didn't do it out of the genuine kindness of my heart. No, I did it to avoid conflict. I did it for all the wrong reasons, right? And so what you do, it's about what you do and who you are when you do it. Okay. So that's why, you know, doing something for somebody can either be an act of love or it can be a self abandonment, right? It depends on the intention behind it. And so where was I going with that? Um, Needing constant validation. You are going to need to give yourself the validation that you're wanting from someone else. It's really not our partner's job to constantly validate us. There's going to be some times where you need validation, but if you are with a good man and you constantly are asking him for validation, you are actually being disrespectful in the relationship because if the guy's a good man, if he's showing up and he's doing the things and you are still needing his constant validation, that is disrespectful towards your partner because you're essentially saying, I don't trust you. And you can't have a relationship without trust. And if he's not a good man and you're needing his constant validation because he is hot and cold and wishy-washy and all the things, then you got to let him go because no matter how much validation he gives you or doesn't give you, it's not going to matter if he's not showing up for you and the connection is not right for you. So we don't play hard to get in the empowered femme world, which is my world. Um, we have high standards and we are high value women who embody our worth. That's what a high value woman is. By the way, I have gotten like backlash in the past for saying high value woman. And of course, people want to have problems with just about everything. But a high value woman is a woman who knows her value and embodies it. That's all high value woman is. And so that is what I teach my clients to be, is a woman who embodies their worth through their thoughts and their feelings and their actions. So don't play hard to get, be a high value woman. And I feel like I'm never going to fall in love because of this. If you heal these things, love will be yours, but you will only get what you're an energetic match for. So you want to be so crystal clear on what it is that you desire to have. A lot of women, myself included, in my past, I had no idea what the hell I wanted. I was just seeing what I could get. And a lot of us settle because we don't believe we can truly have the most epic love affair of our life. And so I want you to be crystal clear on what it is that you are wanting in a partner and in a relationship. And when I say get crystal clear on what you want, that doesn't mean getting super specific on his height, the amount of money he has, or whatever. I'm talking about his character. Because again, I see that like I've talked with women who are like, yeah, I want him to be successful and I want him to have this and that. And I'm like, in that whole list, you didn't mention that you wanted him to be kind. And they're like, no, that's a given. I'm like, no, it's not. Because you're putting it on a pedestal, these things that are going to stroke ego, right? You can want a man that takes care of you. I think that's amazing. That's what I had. And but you need to get really crystal clear on the kind of character that you want your man to have and how you want the relationship to feel. And then the other part of the equation is who do I have to be in order to attract that kind of love? I mean, I did the work to be an incredible woman and an incredible partner. And, you know, I did that because I wanted to have a epic love affair. I wanted to have the most romantic, incredible relationship of my life. And so in order for me to do that, like I used to be so reactive and so insecure and I was so emotionally immature and all the things. And a high value man never, ever, ever in a million years would have been attracted to me back then. I sabotaged when things got good. I shut down emotionally. I would be mean when things didn't go my way. And it's so funny, like when Mike hears that, he's like, I literally like could never picture that out of you because I'm not the same person. I do not act on my emotions. And I'm not perfect, of course, but I really like learned how to be secure. I learned how to have radical confidence. I learned how to process my emotions. I learned how to have, I call it empowered feminine communication, which is something that I teach all of my clients. I learned how to process my emotions. I learned how to be the type of woman that the man that I wanted would want to be with. And all of us have these, that's who we are at our core anyway. It's just who you are with your reactiveness and your neediness and the constant need for validation and all those things. That's not even who you are. That is your trauma and it's your coping mechanisms. And so once you start to heal the core wounds, the root cause for all of this, that those begin to dissipate, which is beautiful. And then you start building on your self-esteem, your self-worth, your self-love, your feminine energetics. Um, And that's when you can really start attracting great men who want to show up for you. And when I say feminine energetics, I don't know if everyone understands that, but it's being the one who is, when I talk about this, there's multiple different things about feminine energetics, but being the feminine energy in a connection with a man, allowing him to lead and pursue and take care of. And you are the receiver. You are the receiver, the nurturer, the emotional gatekeeper. So I hope that this was helpful. I think I covered a lot of good stuff on here. I love answering these questions. This is what I do with my clients every Wednesday. I have an incredible group called Empowered Academy, and we do hot seat coaching where they bring me questions, and I also have a incredible online curriculum that they go through, and so they're getting subconscious healing, and then they're getting coached by me. I mean, I've been running this for 5 years now, and I think 5 years now. And if you're wanting further support in this area, if you've listened to this and you're like, Morgan, you hit so many nails on the head. I know I need to heal this. I want to heal this. I want to show up. I want to do the thing. Like, I love working with women who want to do the work because I'm very much that way. Like, nobody had to like motivate me to do this healing work. Initially, the reason why I started doing this work was because I was in an awful court case with my daughter's paternal grandparents. It's a whole long, big story, but that really caused me to shift a lot of the patterns that I had and clean up things that I knew I needed to clean up but didn't. But once I understood that, then, you know, I showed up for myself. I'm a very self-led woman, and I work with a lot of incredibly amazing other self-led women. And so if you want to do this work, if you are like, Morgan, yes, I'm willing, I am ready, just shoot me a DM and we can talk about it. And, you know, if it's for you, it's for you. If it's not, it's not. There's never going to be any pressure from me ever to buy something because I want people in my world that want to be there, right? And so it's really like if you want to just shoot me a DM and we can have a conversation or hop on a call or whatever and see if it's good fit, why not? Right. So go ahead and do that if you want more of this support. And if you have questions, I'm probably going to do a thread of questions so that I can keep doing these lives for you guys. But that's all for now. Okay. I love you. Goodbye.